All right. Human beings, the Supreme Court did. 4 years ago, what did Democrats say? We got to get this done now. This has got to be done right now before the election. What do Republicans say? You can't do that. You can't do that before the election. Today, what do Republicans say? We have to do this right now. Democrats say, no, we have to wait. So that proves the point here that you can't trust human beings to do the right thing. You can't. Because human beings are always going to do what they feel benefits themselves the most. Their personal opinion, their personal way. We're never going to do what's right. We're always going to do what we feel like we have to do right now that benefits us, my comfort zone, what I want, especially when you get in groups. He's saying here, government is necessary. It's evil. By itself, it's evil because people are evil. And so we've got to find a way to control it. Nuclear reactions. All right? Nuclear reactions. You've got to have protection against the nuclear reaction. If you can control the nuclear reaction, you can have lights, you can have TV, you can have stuff. All right? He's kind of saying we got to find a way to control this nuclear reaction, and the best way is checks and balances. And y'all have done this a lot your whole life. So we're going to jot this down. Jot this down somewhere. Checks and balances. We got 3 branches. Legislative, executive, and judicial. What have y'all been told about these branches your whole life? 3 blank but blank branches. What have you been told in school since 2nd grade? We have 3 blank but blank branches. But equal. That is not true. They are separate. They are not equal. All right? They mean to be, but they're not. All right, let's look at the legislative branch first. They write laws. They send it to the president. What power does the legislative branch have over the executive branch?
They can veto.
They can veto. Okay? They can veto nah, I'm wrong. I'm silly. They can't. They can override a veto. What group is that a power over? The executive. The executive vetoes a bill. Congress can get the bill and override that veto and pass it even if the president says no. If they get a 2/3 majority. That never happens. Except a couple times. I think it's happened twice in my lifetime, maybe a couple times more, but it doesn't happen. Why does it not happen? You got to have a bunch of Republicans go against a Republican president. You got to have a bunch of Democrats go against a Democratic president. That doesn't happen. That's not going to happen. But it's there. That power is there. The legislative branch, if President Trump appoints a Supreme Court justice, what has to happen to them before they get their gig?
Before interrogation.
Senate has to look at it. So the Senate is to approve or disapprove presidential idiot, Rob. I need to start over. That's another power over the executive. The president picks somebody But the Senate gets to say yes or no. Is that good? Should we just have presidents appoint people and then they just get their job? What's good about the Senate looking at it?
It's when people looking over.
It's, you got 100 people checking and making sure that this person's okay. I would pick Lane Lloyd to be Supreme Court Justice. He's one of the smartest men I know. He's fair. He's intelligent, compassionate. He understands life. He'd be a great Supreme Court Justice. Only problem is he's never gone to law school. Never been a judge. So would they say yes or no to him? They'd say no, he's not qualified. So it's good that we have somebody look over him. Now I wish those people looking over them would understand what their job is, to see if they're good enough, qualified, background. But what we talked about yesterday, what is the Senate going to look at? There's one thing the Senate's going to look at.
Your party.
The person that appointed them, is there an R or a D next to their name? If it's an R, the Democrats are going to say that person's crap, we don't want him. If it's a D, the Democrats will say, yes, I like that person. Same thing with the R's. That's all that matters, and that's not what matters. If you don't like, all right, let's say I don't like what my boss does. What do I need to do? I need to become the boss somewhere if I want to make the decisions. I will never, ever, 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 ever be a principal. That's the worst job besides president in the world. Why would you ever want to be a principal? You're not in charge of anything. You have no idea what your day is going to be. Everything else is in charge of you. I get to come in this room and I'm in charge of what goes on in here. I decide what happens. As principal, you don't decide anything. Everything just happens to you. You have to wear a tie sometimes. And you have to care about all this test crap. Who cares about any of that stuff? Anyways. How did I get to talk about that? I don't remember. Anyway, that's a power that the legislative branch has over the executive. Another one. What is a power that the legislative branch has over the judicial branch? You just mentioned it.
Well, they get to appoint.
Well, they get to say yes or no to these judges.
I know we have to wait, but then why is it such a big deal to say, try to appoint a judge right now? Just stay alive and say.
Here's the thing. Right now, there are we were watching Georgia Tech the other day. Were you in the room with me? Remember why did I always used to like watching Georgia Tech? They ran the option. They ran the flex bone. And they were one of the few teams that I would love watching Georgia Tech. We got a new coach a couple years ago. He doesn't run the option. He runs the spread like everybody else. And I turned it on and I went, oh crap, I forgot. Last year they had a hard time running the spread. Why do you think they had a hard time running the spread passing offense? Because he's been recruiting option players for 15 years. He's been recruiting option players. They didn't have players to run his offense. It takes some time to get his people in there. If you're the president, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was put there by Bill Clinton in 1994, 5, 96, somewhere in there. How long ago was that? Long time ago. Bill Clinton put his person in there. Someone he felt thought like him, acted like him, looked at the Constitution the way he did. Bill Clinton quit being president in 2000. It's 2020. Ruth Bader Ginsburg just now died. She's been on the Supreme Court for 25 years. The president gets to put their person on the Supreme Court. That's the most powerful thing a president can do. And right now, which sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, I believe 4 of the justices, there's 9 Supreme Court justices, 4 of them were put there by Republican presidents. 4 of them were put there by Democratic presidents. Whoever this person comes in could sway the court one way or the other. Could. Because not every person that's been put there by a Democrat or Republican always acts like the reason. Does that make sense? They don't always toe the line. They don't always stay on that track. Bless you. But that's why it's such a big, that's why it's so political. Because now you've got, whatever. Some people look at the Constitution as, well, might as well do this. Throw this down somewhere. Sorry we're all over the place with this. There are strict constructionists and there are liberal constructionists. When I read the Constitution, I'm a strict constructionist. Conservatives are strict constructionists. Word for word. What do conservatives think about the government? More or less of it? Less. Less government interference, less government programs, less government say-so in our lives. What do liberals look at the government as? They want more. Let the government solve the problems. Let the government handle things. More tax money to them. Same thing with the Constitution. This is conservative. This liberal's liberal. When I read the Constitution, I read it word for word, and those words mean exactly what they say. I'm not going to give it any extra power than I can. These people want to limit the power of government. Liberal constructionists look at the Constitution and stretch the meaning of the words. They want to add to power of the government. So if you're a judge and your decisions show you are a liberal constructionist, where you want to add to the power of government and you want to expand the meaning of the words of the Constitution, these are the kind of judges that most Democrats are going to pick. Strict constructionists that want to limit the power of government are usually what the Republicans pick. Does that kind of make sense? So that's what everybody's freaking out about right now. So there's what the legislative branch can do. Oh, I think I'm forgetting something. Legislative branch. Anyway. All right, let's look at the executive branch. Am I confusing everybody here? I don't ever want to confuse you. I know I've been everywhere. All right, the executive branch. What is the power that the executive branch has over the legislative branch? Can veto bills. President can say yes, sign it, or say no, veto it. There's a third thing the president can do, but we'll save that for later. Is there anything the president gets to do to the judicial branch? It's to pick people. It's to appoint people. That's fantastic. You notice anything about the president's powers and Congress's powers? Is this final? No. What happens when the president vetoes it? What's possible? Legislative branch can undo that. It never happens, but they can. Is there anything final about this? Legislative branch gets to say yes or no to them. So the powers the president has over these two branches can be undone by another branch. So out of the judicial and the legislative and executive, which one's more powerful? Legislative. This really doesn't happen very much. Most of the time, depending on who's in the House and Senate, the president most of the time gets their people through, not always. Depends on the makeup of the Senate. if we have a Republican Senate right now by one person. So that gives President Trump an advantage. A Republican president has an advantage if the Senate is Republican. If it's Democratic and the president's a Republican, now you got a big fight on your hands. Let's look at the judicial branch. The judicial branch has power over the executive and the legislature. Anybody remember what power the judicial branch has? Judicial review. Have you ever heard of this before? This is the power of the court system, federal courts, not just the Supreme Court, but federal courts can look at something. They can look at an action of government. I don't know if you'll see that anywhere else. The president could do something, or the legislative branch could do something. Some action of government. They can look at that and say, that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. They're the refs. They throw the flags. Does that make sense? President can do something. Let's say the president does an executive order, which we'll get to them later. He says, we're gonna build a wall by executive order. Supreme Court would look at that and say, that's unconstitutional. Why would that be unconstitutional? Can the president spend money? No. President, Congress writes the checks. President can't say we're spending this money. Congress can say we're spending this money. Is it good that we don't let the president spend money? Forget who the president is. One person. We don't need one person deciding we're spending all. We let the Congress decide where the money's spent. So the judicial branch comes in, the Supreme Court comes in and says that's unconstitutional. If a law is passed, the Supreme Court can come in and say that's unconstitutional. You can't do that, and the law is gone. Several years ago, President Clinton had the line item veto. What that meant was, if a bill came in front of the president could mark out part of it and keep the rest. And they said that's unconstitutional. Why would that be unconstitutional? To have this bill, got stuff written in it, and the president comes in and says, I don't like this, I don't like this, and I don't like that, but I like the rest of it, I'm going to sign it.
That's not the original bill.
The president has just written a law. The Constitution says the president can't write a law. Congress can write a law. So they said that is unconstitutional. You can't have a line item veto. So they took care of that. Which branch is the most powerful ultimately? Judicial. And can anything undo that? No. There's no undo. Well, that's gone. So yeah, we do have three branches. They have powers over each other. Thankfully, this branch is the most mature we have. It takes their job seriously. Antonin Scalia, y'all never heard of him. He was on the Supreme Court. He died. I remember crap from 30 years ago, but stuff that happened in the last 10 years, I'm lost. He died recently. He might have died just a couple years ago. He was the most conservative, the most non-liberal Supreme Court justice we had. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the most liberal Supreme Court justices we had. They were best friends. They would sit and talk, and they would talk about the law, and they were best friends. They get at each other's throats when it came to, policies and but they were best friends. The judicial branch is able to put away political stuff and look at the law, and they're mature. Congress not mature, executives not mature, but our judicial branch has been historically the most mature branch we got. But anyway, those are the checks and balances. What I'm going to do a couple weeks on the chance to do good is, and we'll practice this a few times, I'll have a statement like, can veto bills. Blank can veto bills, and then another blank. Who vetoes bills? Executive. Who is that done to? Legislative. That one's the hardest one. Because if you say blank can appoint judges, judges is what branch? Judicial. So that's the end. That's who it's done to. If it says president or vice president, what branch is that? Executive. Well, we'll practice that as we go. All right. Have we got any comments or questions? Let me just start this here. We'll do this about 12 minutes. 14 minutes. Can you handle it? Is that okay? This Constitution guide is pretty amazing. The guys who wrote it were just making stuff up. They were just throwing crap on the wall. There's nothing like this ever done in history. And they just knew they wanted freedom. They knew they wanted the rights protected. And they're just throwing crap against the wall. They wore wigs too. That ain't their fault, but that's how it is. So this is going to be a review. Tell you what. A lot of this is review. We won't go past 13. The Constitution was written in 1787. It wasn't ratified. It wasn't passed until 1789. It was written in 1787, which is why every September 17th you have to talk about the Constitution all through school. 1789 is when it was finally ratified, finally voted. At the Constitutional Convention, George Washington, who wasn't president yet, we had the Articles of Confederation, he served as president of the convention, chairman of the convention. He banged the gavel. He ran the show. What's that? It's a little gavel. It's not horrible.
That's really good.
It's not horrible. It's not too, looks more like a short, what's that, croquet deal?
Okay.
George Washington is what you call a leader. He was a leader. Wherever he was a leader. We know about James Madison. Father of the Constitution. He basically wrote the Constitution. You know where he was from? Virginia. Which is weird, because he was a Southerner. But he was for the Constitution. Were the Federalists, did they want communism? Did they want the most powerful government ever? No. They didn't want a gorilla. They wanted a macaw. Macaw, those little tiny monkeys? Yeah. They didn't want a gorilla. They didn't want King Kong. They wanted a little macaw monkey. The Anti-Federalists didn't want a monkey. They didn't want a mouse. What's that? No, I don't think so. If they were, they shut them up real quick. Are you an idiot? No. They had a British accent if they wanted a gorilla. I'm sure there was, because there's always idiots. Anywhere you go, there's always... Isn't it weird when people just have the most insane, non-thinking ways of thinking. I just don't. everybody just thought like me, life would be fantastic. Just go smooth, it'd be great. I mean, nothing. All right, Virginia and New Jersey. What do you remember about Virginia and New Jersey? This is all about representation. Or power. This comes down to power. Because whoever has the representation is going to control things. If you have, there's 51, might be 52, I don't know, I get lost. In the Senate, there's 1 or 2 person majority. Republicans have a 1 or 2 person majority. In the House, I think there's out of 435, I think there's like a 20 something person majority. Democrats have it. And we'll talk about this when we get to Congress. As long as that party can keep their cows in the pasture, everything's good. What do I mean by keep your cows in the pasture? If you keep all the Republicans together in the Senate, then they can get what they need done. If the Democrats in the House can keep all their people together voting the same way, they can't get beat in the House. But if your cows start jumping the fence, if any Democrats decide to go against it, or if any Republicans decide to go against it, now you run into trouble. But Virginia wanted population-based representation. New Jersey wanted states to have equal. I was just about to put sequel. Let's see, states to have equal representation. And what did the compromise do? Let's do both. The Connecticut Compromise. Bless you. Bless you. Both. Virginia plan became the House of Representatives. The New Jersey plan became the Senate. And almost everything has to go through both of them. Good news for y'all, we're not going to get to the bottom. We're not going to make it. 3/5 compromise. This is an embarrassing, sad moment in American history. What was a 3/5 compromise? For every 3 slaves, for every 5 slaves, they could count 3 for representation, towards population. So in the House, for every 5 slaves, they counted 3 of them. They didn't let those 3 vote. Human beings, they're the worst. All right, electing the president. There's a lot of talk these days. I would yell at it. There's 3 ways they want to elect the president. What is a logical way to elect the president? Popular vote. Another way was letting state legislatures, letting Congress, probably the House, pick a president. Would we have a say-so in that? We elect our representatives from Texas. As of now, the Texas representatives are majority Republican. So what president what kind of person would the delegates from Texas vote for? Republican president. So indirectly, we would have an indirect voice in that. Popular vote. They said no to that. Because they said, and I don't know if this is an exact quote, I forgot who said it, America would not be educated enough to make a wise decision. What they meant was the farmer in Kentucky wouldn't know who these people were. Because there's not much information. So you're up in the mountains in Tennessee trying to plow your rocky. You've seen Sergeant York. If you haven't seen Sergeant York, take some time and watch Sergeant York. Pretty good show. But anyway, that's what they meant. I think it's completely different today. They're right. We are not informed enough to make an educated decision. America is not. All we care about is Kardashians and whatever, TikTok and all that kind of garbage to make a good decision. So not just popular vote. Matter of fact, I think I might show you a picture here. No, that picture didn't work. So they chose electors. How many electoral votes does each state get?
2.
However many senators and reps. That's the number of electoral votes every state has. How many senators does every state have? 2. How many reps do they have? Depends on their population. So every state's different. Some states might have the same. I think Wyoming, Montana, and the Dakotas all have 3. There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of people that they want to blow up the system, want to get rid of the electoral votes. We don't really vote for the president. We don't have a say-so in the president. The electors vote for him. We've had 5 times where the guy lost the popular vote, but won the electoral vote. Last year's Boyd game, we gained, 100, 120 more yards than Boyd did. We lost the game. Sometimes you don't gain as many yards. Usually if you gain more yards, you win the game. Because of electoral votes, there's 538 electoral votes. You don't do this now. We'll do this later. You just watch this. You need 270 to win. So when they're campaigning, where are they going to go campaign? Okay. Is Donald Trump going to go campaign in California? No. Why not? He ain't going to win that. In the past, Democrats would not campaign in Texas because they wouldn't win it. It's a toss-up right now. Texas is so there's going to be a lot of campaigning in Texas for the president. If it was just popular vote, I guess I will show you this picture. We'll get to it later. If it was just popular vote, no, listen. This is the 2000 election. Red are counties that was won by President Bush. Blue are counties that were won by Vice President Gore. Who won the popular vote? Obviously, who won the popular vote? No. Did not. Gore won the popular vote. How is that?
All those little tiny are probably popular.
Yeah. There's Chicago. There's Detroit. There's New York. There's Boston. There's Miami. There's Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland. He won a lot of big cities, high population areas. Bush won some of those, but he won a lot of the small population areas. If it was just popular vote, could you ignore most of the country? Yeah. You can ignore a lot of the country. With the electoral system, what do you have to do? It forces you to go to different parts of the country in different areas because you need a combination of all kinds of places. You can't just go to one little place or this kind of place. You got to win some southern states, some northern states, some western states, some eastern states. You got to spread things out a little bit. It forces you. I would do it different. I would make it to where, because if you win Texas, you win 51% of the vote, you get all of Texas's electoral votes. So you don't get any credit for it. You might have won 49% of the vote, the way things go, and won Texas. The other guy won like 48%. There's some other people running. So I lost by that much, and I get nothing. I'd rather see it be, I don't want to confuse it. The representatives and senators are not the ones voting in the electoral votes, but however many of them you got, that's how many votes you got. I would rather them take each congressional district, and if you win that district, you get an electoral vote. That would make you even focus more on different areas. And then if you win that state, you get the 2 ones that represent the senator. Something like that. But that's what we got right now. Thanks a lot.